Early on in my ministry at St. Paul's, one of the local funeral homes used to call me all the time to come and do funerals. And on this one occasion, they asked me if I would come and do a funeral for someone who had no church affiliation. Now, I didn't and I don't have such religious restriction on my life or my ministry as some do. I'll preach anybody's funeral whenever and wherever I can, because the funeral is never about the deceased. It's always about the family that remains. It's an opportunity to show love, extend comfort, and share faith with those who remain. But I never will forget that at this one particular funeral, there was no family present and only a couple of neighbors who dropped by. During the entire service, there were only 4 people, including the organist, and at the gravesite, there was nobody but me and the funeral directors. And as I drove out of the cemetery that day, I parked on the side to make myself this note, because I wondered in my mind, how could a person live life until their late 70s, come to the end of their life, and have no family and no friends? Now, I haven't answered that question yet, but I do know that as for me, I don't want to meander through the days of my life, arrive at the end, and have nobody to be touched enough, nobody to be moved enough, nobody who can testify that my life meant something to them. I want to live a life that helps somebody, encourages somebody, inspires somebody, uplifts somebody, and impacts somebody. That's what the songwriter called an everlasting remembrance. I'm talking about living in such a way that even when you're gone, your life will be living on in others, because that is truly a rich and wealthy person. Money cannot buy that quality of life. A God-fearing person will live on after they're gone in the lives of other people. And don't get me wrong, there ain't nothing wrong with making an honest living. There's nothing wrong with having nice things. There's nothing wrong with building a substantial business. There's nothing wrong with wanting to do better, have better, dress better, drive better, and live better. I'm just saying, don't build your hopes there, but build your hopes, as the old people used to say, on things eternal, and hold on to God's unchanging hand. Because if you hold God's hand, he'll order your steps. If you hold God's hand, he'll guide your feet. If you hold God's hand, he'll even contain your stumbles and command your stops. If you hold God's hand, he'll guide you around danger and keep you from falling, protect you from destruction, and lift you by his grace. My baby brother, Dr. Charles Goodman, said it like this. He said, at the end of the day, I got to confess that I'm a grace case. In other words, the only reason I'm alive is because of the grace of God. I wonder, is there anybody else here who can make that confession and just say, I'm a grace case? Come on, you ought to testify and tell somebody. Just look at them and say, if anybody asks you how I made it, if anybody asks you how I did it, if anybody asks you how I survived, how I managed it, how I took it, just tell them I'm a grace case, that it was nothing but the grace of God. I'm not where I'm going to be, but I'm not going to fall apart, because God is not a God of unfinished business. What God starts, God will always finish, and God is still working on me.